all night long, but there's no trace to be found. It's like they all have just vanished, but I know they're around. I feel they're getting closer. Their hearts are sending chills down my spine.
Alright, folks, welcome back to part 2. Alright, I was just looking at what's going on in chat right now, and they're talking about palm readers. And, okay, look, I need to qualify something. A real psychic doesn't need to read your fucking palm. In fact, that's not what they're doing, the real ones. What they're actually doing is they're using that as an excuse to touch you, because they know that once they physically make contact with you, it's like making contact with a switch. And so what they're actually doing is it has nothing to do with the lines on your palm. But yeah, I agree. Most psychics that do like palm readings, most of them are fake, and they're just in it for your money. The whole thing about crystal balls is like the same thing with mirrors. It's just a way of scrying, and there is some legitimacy to that. But the whole palm reading thing, all that. It is based somewhat on reality. It's just that most of the people nowadays, like, that want to read your palms or all that stuff, most of them honestly are fake, and I can't stand fakes. So there you have it. Anywho, back to superstitions. There's some interesting superstitions that we've always taken for granted. People, even today, act on these superstitions a lot of the time without even realizing it, because they are so shaped, our like the way we've come up, the way that we've learned about the world. For example, if you've ever seen a Western movie, you'll notice that cowboys in the Westerns always mount their horses from the left side, without fail. And the reason for that is very simple. Because everybody mounted their horses from the left side. It was considered bad luck to do it any other way. But why the left side? Nobody really knows, other than, like, at one point we do know that left-handed people were supposedly evil, and yada yada yada. But obviously we know now that that wasn't true. But it is just kind of interesting, like, people don't think about that. Oh, wow, yeah, they mount from the left side. Or like, what's another good one? Wishing wells is another superstition that, it has real world, current, modern day effects, but, like, is based in history. And where the wishing well actually comes from, by the way, the whole concept of the wishing well actually comes from ancient Jerusalem. There was a well. I don't know if it's still there, but I believe it is. It was known as Solomon's Well, and supposedly, if you were to give away your wealth to the well, it would grant you good fortune, yada yada yada. And so that's where that kind of whole thing came from, is from that particular well that was supposedly blessed by God for King Solomon, to kind of make up for something that God failed to do. I don't remember. So yeah, even wishing wells kind of fall in that category. Another very common, even today, like so the whole mounting on the left thing, in the military, when you're like, if you were like a fighter pilot, all right, you mount the plane, you get into the plane from the left side. No one ever mounts a plane from the right side. Only exception to that is commercial airliners. Because all of their, like when you go into a commercial airline, you're actually mounting through a door on the right side. Which is part of the reason why I think a lot of people have issues with commercial flight, is because they don't mount from the left like they're supposed to. Becca says, actually, it is the left side. Picture it. Picture what? What are you talking about? Are you talking about on a plane? No, it's not. It's the right side. And the reason I know that is because of like the way that a plane faces when you get on board, is with the nose out, like away from, therefore it is on the right side. Hanging dream catchers is not a superstition, it's a fact. And people have gotten it wrong. Just so you know, unless your dream catcher is hanging in the middle of the room, you hung it wrong. First of all, so just to clear that up. But what dream catchers do is they actually they filter out bad dreams. Tabitha asked me about that, so yeah, I don't consider that a superstition at all, because it's true. No, it isn't. No, because when you mount a plane, the nose is pointing outward, not inward. If it were pointing inward, it would be on the right side. It doesn't point inward because it can't back up. It can only go forward out of the gate. Therefore, it is on the right side. In other words, look, over here, right, let's say this is the plane, and the tip right here is the nose of the plane. Right here is the main terminal. And then it's got that little arm thing that comes out, which is where the door into the plane actually is, right? Well, because planes cannot back up under their own power. They don't have reverse engines. They have to be towed into the terminal. So the nose is here. You're over here, right side of the plane. Yeah, there is a superstition about if you fall in your dream, about you actually dying. But let me qualify that. It's not simply falling in your dream. If you fall in your dream and you actually hit the ground in your dream, supposedly you die. It's not simply falling, because almost everybody falls in their dream at some point. Then you're extremely lucky, Becky, because they hardly ever do that. Every single plane I've ever seen faces away from the terminal because they don't have the power to back up. They have to be towed backwards. And it's a lot harder to tow backwards when it's got a plane full of people on it. Oh, anytime. Reagan said, Jay, your music is putting the baby to sleep. Thank you. Of course, anytime. Also, there's a superstition about, concerning running water. I forget exactly how that one goes, because there's a few different running water ones. And they're all, well, like one of them I know is like, don't camp too close to running water. And that's not a superstition, that's actually good advice. You should be near running water, but not too near running water, because animals flock to running water. So I think that's really kind of the purpose behind that. But there are other superstitions about running water, about like how supposedly evil spirits can't cross running water. That's not necessarily true. But that does have somewhat of a basis in historical lore. because it actually goes back to the original vampire superstitions from ancient Romania. Like, supposedly vampires can't cross running water because water is a pure substance, and yada yada yada. Um, Sorry about that. Um, Now there's a whole falling when you dream. If you hit bottom, you die. Um, I think that's like any dream, though. I think the original lore actually stated that if you die in your dream, you die in real life. Um, I don't think it was specific to falling. I think that came about later on. Um, what is my favorite superstition? I don't really have one per se, but I would think that I think the most interesting one um, isn't really as well known as a lot of them are. It's actually superstition that's practiced in Nepal. They never sleep towards the north. But that's more than just a superstition. It's actually a practical fact that you should never sleep towards the north. And the reason why is because the air there, above like 12,000 feet, can get so cold that you can literally freeze to death even inside your tent. So if you sleep with your tent, like the door in the tent facing the north, you're actually going to get a lot more cold air coming into your tent than you would if you were facing the south. It's just a neat little fact. But it is like seen with a good deal of superstition behind it. You know, there's lore among the Sherpas about how, you know, it's got to do with evil spirits in the wind and all this other stuff. But you know, regardless of the fact that it's a superstition, it is actually good advice. So there you go. That would probably be my favorite. Yeah. Reagan just basically says that hers has to do with Friday the 13th and 666. Well, yeah, I can see that. A lot of people like that one. Um, that plus 1 and 3 is both divisible by 6. Oh, wait, what? What's Indian? Reagan said, I think that's Indian, the elephant thing. What are you talking about? What elephant thing? Oh, that's such bullshit. I just read down and saw what Tab said. No, you know where that comes from? That is not even a real superstition at all. that comes from a paranormal case that just fucking happened. Like 2008, I think, is when it happened. What it was is this guy had an elephant statue. It was just a small, like, little tabletop one that was on his coffee table that was facing the door. And when he came in through the door, a spirit that was residing in his house pushed it off of his table. And so suddenly there's like this whole superstition about it. That's absolute bullshit. It's absolutely not even a true superstition at all. But I will say this. In India, most people don't even have elephant like statues or anything. Um, because in India they're so sacred that they don't even mess around with it. And the only place you'll really find like elephant statues is at their temples, which are huge. Yes, Friday the 13th was the day that the Knights Templar died. It was the day that they were betrayed by the Pope and by the King of England. And it was also the day that the first steps were made into making the Freemasons. So, there you go. Uh, anyways, let's see how much. Okay, good. I have to keep my eye on the time because it can get away from me, especially with shows like tonight. And then I'll end up here talking for like half an hour and I'm already off the air. I can't tell you how many times that's actually happened. Yeah, so like the whole thing about 13 is all about that Friday the 13th. It was Friday the 13th, 1544. Or 1542. It was one of those. And, by the way, you are correct. 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18. And you can divide it into 9 and turn that upside down and it becomes 6. But here's the thing. 13, right? You can go 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18. Right? And you can do just like you said. Divide it down to 9, turn it upside down, it's 6. But 6 is divisible by both 1 and 3. 1 and 3 together are 13. Did I just make your head explode? You can deduce or reduce or subtract or multiply or divide or otherwise reduce both 666 and 13 into 1 and 3. Like 9,874 different ways. Yeah. Anywho, um, yeah, but then there's other superstitions like I'm trying to think of. There was another one I had in mind when I decided to do tonight's show, and I'm having a brain fart about it. It's a pretty common one too. I can't for the life of me remember what it was though. It wasn't the rabbit's foot. It wasn't Friday the 13th. It wasn't 666. It wasn't. She's blown away because I blew her mind. Anyways, God, I can't for the life of me remember what it was. I was explaining to her that 666 and 13 can both be divided by 1 and 3, and 1 and 3 together is 13. So 666 and 13 are in fact the same thing. Well, numerology actually isn't numbers itself. What numerology does is it uses numbers to explain basically star signs. That's basically what numerology is. Um, but yeah, it is a very interesting study for sure. It's Yes, it does. It gets. She says it's teamed with. I think that's supposed to be teamed with astrology, but it's so complicated. Yeah, it is. Well, that's kind of anything with numbers, though, is it gets very complicated. Um, can you not hear me? I'm on right now. Anyways, that was weird. Anywho, okay, so another superstition has to do with like the four-leaf clover. That's classic. Everybody knows about four-leaf clover. It's supposed to be lucky, but nobody understands why. Um, it just is. And where that lore actually starts has to actually do with the mythical creature leprechauns, and like how supposedly if you follow the rainbow, yada yada yada, you get a pot of gold, blah blah blah. Um, but there aren't really rainbows for like 9 months out of the year in Ireland, and therefore they really don't have anything to do with the real life lore about leprechauns. And so that's where four-leaf clovers come from, is because it's such an oddity, but it's one that could actually, be found in Ireland, that it's supposed to be like a sign that, you're close to a leprechaun. And that's where the whole four-leaf clover thing comes from. Yeah, it's like the whole pot of gold thing. It all ties into each other, like the four-leaf clover, the following the rainbow, and all that stuff is all tied into the whole leprechaun mythology. However, let me qualify this by saying that, like a lot of superstitions, well, it's actually bullshit. It is based somewhat in fact, because we do know that there were a race of people that existed in the UK in particular that were incredibly short. They would have been seen as leprechauns or dwarves, elves, what have you. In fact, what they were was midgets. But they had no concept of what a midget is, and I know now midget is not the politically correct term. I don't really care. I like the little people just as much as anybody else. It's just a word. Yes, I took a drink of coffee. Get off my back about it. And you can also see me taking a drink of coffee because I'm also on video right now on Ustream. So there you go. And I'm about to do it again. So get ready. There you go. Okay, so in any case, so there are other superstitions like that. There's cultural superstitions too that like nobody else in the world knows, because nobody outside of like for example, there are superstitions that are only known by Native Americans that will never get discussed. And nor should they be, because they're specific to us. Just like there are superstitions from tribes in South America that will never be discussed outside of those tribes because it's specific to them. Just like there's superstitions in Ireland and Scotland and all over the UK that will never get discussed in the United States because it's specific to them. And same thing in America. There are superstitions that are specific to us. Like, actually, the whole horseshoe above the door thing is specific to the United States Wild West. That's where it comes from. And it has to do with iron, because iron was seen as a pure substance. It was seen as like the ultimate tool against evil. And it is, by the way, because iron is raw. Like iron is like the rawest metal. It's as close to its natural state as iron as you can get, and still melt something down. So iron is a very pure substance, and as such, it has been and will probably always be used in some form or another to fight evil spirits, and therefore should be. But the superstition about them is actually based in fact. And that's like the whole thing with horseshoes is because they're made out of iron. Or at least they used to be. And there's another superstition that has to do with railroad ties. Like how you should never take a loose railroad tie off of train tracks because you're inviting misfortune. Kind of based in fact, because and that actually comes from an actual historical thing, because a guy back in the day, would sit there and, like, he wasn't right in the head, I don't think, and he was kind of crazed by gold, and whenever they would finish a rail line, they would sink a railroad tie, which is basically like a big nail with a slight hook on one end of it to hold the rails down. And whenever they would finish one, they would always use, instead of iron, they would use silver or gold. And so this guy had it in his head, for whatever reason, that he was going to find some silver and gold railroad ties and get rich or whatever was in his sick head. But he ended up pulling up a lot of railroad ties, and as a result, a train crashed, and actually, ironically, crashed into him and killed him, as well as, I think, like 9 passengers. So that's where that superstition actually comes from. It's actually somewhat based in fact. Yes, it is. Thank you. I got this vapor from our local tobacco store. The tip is, I believe, Western Vapors, and I believe the battery is let's see, what is it? It's Smoke, SMOK, Smoke. So yeah. Becky, go to the Ustream player right above the speaker player and hit play. You should be able to see me. Although, I'm not going to be on for much longer, I don't think. Yeah, I got about 5 minutes left. Yeah, that's... I'm not even going to repeat that sentence, Reagan. Yeah, actually the flavor, which you can see I have very little of right here, is Black Label. It is Chippin' Mint. It's basically mint chocolate chip, and it is good. Yeah, I'm almost out, and the other stuff I got is just straight, like, menthol, so kind of sucks, but I'm dealing with it. Anywho, yeah, I'm trying to think of what the other superstition was that I was thinking about. Um, I can't think of it. Can't think of it. There is one about from Native Americans that I will share with you. Um, and it's not so much a superstition as it just kind of a ritual thing, but it is sort of based in superstition. Um, when someone we're close to dies, we will cut a lock of our hair off of our head to show that we're in mourning. The superstition behind that, I don't exactly understand or even know, really. But the ritual behind it is that it is because the way marriages used to work in the tribal system is like you wanted to be with a girl from another tribe, you would have to kind of court her, and if her hair was cut, you couldn't court her because it's against the rules. And it was just a way to show that you were in mourning, and that's kind of where that whole thing comes from. Got about 2 minutes left, so if anybody else has got a real quick question. Do I have... Oh, I see. Anywho, yeah, so that's one for you from Native Americans. Anyhow. And I'm down to about a minute. Thank you, Jeremy. Jeremy said, great show. Thank you, Jared. Thank you for tuning in, like always. Tune in next week. I'm hoping that, and like the reason why I did this Ustream stuff, by the way, is because I'm hoping to share video with you next week from our investigation on Saturday. So we'll see how that turns out. Either way, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, my pack, my tribe, peace.